Hey everyone, Robert Ferringo here once again with Raphael Esparza bringing you What Are the Odds? Welcome to this live edition. March Madness is here, March 7th, Raphael. We are about to get into it. First, I want to mention, as this little banner is pointing towards me, get $60 of free premium member picks at DocSports.com by taking advantage of that link down in the description. Click on the link. You go to Docs, we give you $60 to use towards any handicapper, any sport, any play that you want. You are welcome. So, all right, Raphael, I'm not going to mess around. We're going to get right into it because we had a huge weekend of college basketball. First, I wanted to ask you, just in general, small conference tournaments, okay? These conference tournaments like the Big South Conference tournament is going on right now. What are your thoughts about betting in these conference tournaments in leagues that you don't normally bet during the regular season? Stay away, see some value. What's your general opinion?
Dogs always bark in these small conference. That's why we see so many teams that shouldn't be in a tournament because they won their conference tournaments. So that's what I look for. I look for big spreads, like the Synodal. I thought the number was way too high. It's already come down to 5.5. I thought the +6. I thought that was a good number. So when I look at these conferences, I'm automatically looking at plus points, not the favorite on this one. So you can get really, really good. But there was another one. Appalachian State, I think they're like 8.5 now tonight. I thought that was a tad high. I think I made it 6 points. So I'm always looking for some dog barking on these small conferences. Totals may be a little bit off. I usually play a lot of unders in these small conferences because defense is so key in this one, and a lot of turnovers are always so key in these small conferences. So if I'm looking at totals, I'm looking at the under.
So it used to be an absolutely money system that I would use, and that was taking double-digit underdogs in these small conference tournaments. Double-digit underdogs used to always just clean up. Now we're seeing a larger disparity between the top and the bottom teams. Blowouts are just a lot more common. So I've noticed in this first week, in these first few small tournaments, all the double-digit underdogs are getting their clocks cleaned. Gardner Webb.
Did High Point beat
High
Gardner
Point
Webb?
just covered against Gardner Webb. Those bets about 4 or 5 years ago, pre-pandemic level, stuff like that, used to be absolute money in the bank because you're one of those bottom tier teams in your conference tournament. You know that you have to win your conference tournament. You know that your season is over if you lose. So those underdogs, to your point about liking underdogs in general, they're going to max out. They're going to leave it all out there. You do not have to worry about effort or motivation this time of the year. So you see a lot of those big underdogs playing with that kind of nothing to lose attitude. And double-digit underdogs used to be really, really big bets. Not happening as much in the smaller conferences yet. We'll see if there's carryover into the larger conferences where maybe there isn't that large talent disparity between the top and the bottom teams. Now, speaking of college basketball, I know there was a game on tonight's Friday's card. We're going to get into Saturday's action in a second, but I think there was a game on tonight's card that you wanted to talk about first.
Yeah, not only is the big key matchup in the Mountain West between Colorado State going to Boise to play Boise State, but this one is a key bubble team matchup. If you're an SEC that's looking at Oklahoma, Texas, even Arkansas, this might be the game you want to keep an eye out because if Colorado State can beat Boise State on it, I think maybe that puts Boise State on that bubble. If Boise State wins this game, then you're looking at Oklahoma, Texas, Nebraska, even maybe North Carolina, who probably might get nipped tomorrow, even though they're hot right now. I want to match this one because this is a key matchup game. So if Mountain West gets 3 teams in, that can maybe suffer a Big Ten getting 11, an SEC getting a 12 or 13. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I can't wait for this matchup. Boise has won 10 out of the last 12 meetings, but boy, this number is way too high now. I mean, the last 4 meetings, 3 of them have only been the winner won by 6 points or less. Now you're getting 7 right now. I'm a little bit shocked on how the line movement. Granted, Boise just dominating at home. I mean, I think they only have 1 loss at home, but it's a big number for 7 with the 2 teams I think are very close matchup on this one. So I'm looking the dog to bark in this one, but I just think this is a key game for these bubble teams to watch it because Colorado State is one of those teams that's on the bubble right now.
Yeah, Colorado State's won 6 straight. Boise State's won 5 straight, both playing very well. I think the difference is right now that Boise State has beaten some of the top teams in the Mountain West. They've kind of proven that they can do that. They blew out Utah State when they came to Boise. They beat I want to say they won by 8 or 9 when they played against San Diego State and Boise. So really, really tough at home. I am with you that I'm surprised that this number keeps moving up. It was 5.5. Then it was 6.5. Now we're getting into 7 range. Raphael, do you think that that's a little bit of an indicator, though, that the sharp money is coming in on Boise State?
I think early sharp money came out. This one opened up at 5, quickly got bet all the way up to 6.5. I think we'll come back down. I don't think it's going to stay at 7, 6. I think we see a 6 as a closing a number, maybe back to a 5.5. But like I said, I think this is a fantastic matchup tonight. I can't wait to watch this game to start my weekend of college hoops because tomorrow's a crazy card.
All right, senior night. What is your thoughts? Does that factor into your handicapping at all? Like, this is kind of a perfect example. Boise State senior night. It's their last home game. You know, they have the 3 senior starters, including Dagenhart. I've seen this cut both ways, where sometimes it's a little bit of a distraction and teams come out a little bit flat. I've seen other times where that last home game, crowd gets into it early and, you know, they start to roll. What has been your experience as a handicapper handling senior night?
We'll use this game as a matchup. That's why I think Boise State wins. I'm not saying Colorado State's going to win this game. I just think that they win like maybe 5 points or less. Some teams don't even have a senior that even starts or even plays. So you have to look at the roster. You have to look at minutes to these seniors. I can't remember what team it was. It was senior night. And they had one senior, and it was a bench guy that only averaged like 3 minutes per game. So you have to really look at senior night and really look into, does it really matter for those seniors? Because that senior might be just a ball boy.
Okay, let's jump right into Saturday's card. Was there anything that jumped out at you about some of the numbers that I sent you and some of the projected opening numbers?
Not really. I thought they were pretty well. They've been moving already. I can't believe some games have moved already 2 points in that one. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I just think bettors are starting to realize, hey, it's freaking March Madness now. We're tired of listening to mock draft 2.0 and combine stuff and the Lakers stuff. I think really this is the start of when really big college basketball comes in, because usually conference tournaments have already started on that one. So I just think there's some games that the Maryland Northwestern game I think is going to mean a lot. I was a little bit shocked that it came out 10.5 on that one. Wake Forest, I thought that was a little bit tad too high, already up to 7.5. So there's some ones I'm excited to watch. Iowa State, how they going to rebound from that bad loss to BYU in overtime. I'm excited for that Iowa State game, because we'll talk about the Fighting Mormons later on. But I'm excited for that. There's a couple games for them I'm excited for.
All right, let's get started right with some of the early games, those noon tip-offs. Really interesting noon slate, actually. Kentucky heading to Missouri as an underdog here. They lost Jackson Robinson for the rest of the year. Huge blow. Really puts a cap on what this team is going to be able to accomplish in March. They're coming off a 31-point win in their final home game over LSU, though. Thoughts on this number and this matchup with Kentucky going to play a very dangerous Missouri team that we've seen go absolutely bonkers on people that roll into their gym?
Yes, at home there's a tough place to steal a game. I remember a couple years ago I saw them beat Kansas at their home place. So this is a crazy place, and I'm not sold on Kentucky right now. Granted, they got to play LSU, and if you're looking for momentum, or if you're looking to stick your chest out that night, you go play LSU. Me and you can find 3 guys to probably beat right at LSU. I'm very curious. I thought the total was dead on. I was hoping to see maybe a high 160s, 170. It was probably going to bet all the way up to 171, because Kentucky has not played really good defense as of late.
Okay, another noon game that is going to be one of the best games of the day. We have St. John's heading to Marquette. St. John's, top 10 team. A lot of buzz about them. Potentially, if they win the Big East tournament, could they steal a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament? Raphael, they're going to be underdogs here in Marquette, one of the tougher venues in any major conference for opponents to go in and get a win. Marquette not really playing well right now, though. They're only 4-5 in their last 9 games. So what do we got here? Is Marquette trending downwards? Has St. John's peaked? Have we reached peak St. John's? We've been reading a lot about Patino and number 1 seed, and St. John's is back, but just been reading a lot about the Red Storm lately. So is this a team to sell high on? What do you make of the fact that we have a top 10 team that is an underdog here on the road? Just kind of help me sift through this one.
Last time I checked, they play in the Big East, which I think it's a down conference right now. I think if St. John's wins out, they still don't get a number one seed. So I just think there's so many number twos out there that are much better than the St. John's strength of schedule and who they played all season long with that weak conference. So, but I agree. I was a little bit shocked. I thought I was going to see a pick 'em maybe, and then we'll see what the bettors do when moving that number. So I'm actually a little bit shocked that you're getting the Johnnies at plus points. If it goes to +2 or even higher, then you got to look at St. John. Whoever crashes the boards and wins the board game, I think wins this game on this one. But it wouldn't shock me if Marquette nips the wings a little bit and lose.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way, that I feel like if this number keeps moving Marquette's way, follow that movement. Follow that sharp money, because I feel like the public is going to be all over St. John's in this game. Again, you got a top 10. They're just going to look at the number. They're just going to look at the number next to their name. They're going to see that St. John's is a top 10 team, be like, oh yeah, Rick Pitino, I know him. I'll take the underdog to get this one. But like I said, not only is this a really tough place to play, it's an early tip. Okay, it's tips off at noon Eastern. That's going to be 11 a.m. local. The crowd is going to be there. It's going to be packed. They're going to be into it. The home team's going to be ready to go. Are the boys from New York City going to be ready to go? They haven't really been. Iron hasn't really been sharpening iron with St. John's lately. They've had a really easy schedule. Beat Seton Hall, beat Butler. They only won by 6. Yeah. You got a DePaul mix sprinkled in there. So I think that this could be a potential ambush situation for the Red Storm tomorrow. So
if they went out, do you give them a number one seed?
It really depends on what happens in the SEC. Okay, if Alabama gets pasted tomorrow by Auburn, and then Alabama loses maybe earlier in their conference tournament, or Tennessee gets upset early in the SEC tournament, then you kind of have to eliminate those two from the discussion, right? I mean, it's going to be Auburn, it's going to be Duke. Those are the two, no doubt, guaranteed number ones. What do you do with the Big 12 winner?
Houston gets a number one seed, and the way Florida played
right
against they're my last number 4.
I agree. Those would be my 4 number one seeds. And no, I don't think that you can do it for St. John's, because their non-conference strength of schedule wasn't as good. And the Big East, you can say down. I still am kind of high on some of these Big East teams in the tournament. I hope Xavier makes it, because if Xavier makes it, they're a team that I'm going to bet in the NCAA tournament. So no, I don't think they'll get it. But here's the other thing, and I was having this conversation with Craig Trapp on Docs Daily, which, if you don't know, Docs Daily from 1 to 1:30 Monday through Friday. Raphael is on there every Wednesday. I hop on there every Thursday and Friday, but we do that. I don't think St. John's is going to win the Big East tournament. I kind of think St. John's has peaked a little bit, but the nature of how they play a lot of close games. They don't shoot well from the outside. I don't think that they're going to put together 3 games in 3 nights where they just bash through these people. Like, you're not going to bully Xavier, then bully UConn, then bully Creighton. It's just not going to work that way. So I don't think St. John's is going to win the Big East tournament. So I don't think that we're even going to have to worry about that.
And does Pitino really want to win the tournament? I mean, I think he probably realized he's probably going to be a 2 or 3 seed, probably a 3 seed. I don't think he's a 2 seed that's going to beat Tennessee and Michigan State. And I'm trying to think of others. Maybe Bama can get a 2 seed. I don't think they'll go that high. So I would say, hey, try to rest your starters and wait for the dance. And who cares about the Big East?
I don't know. I think he's smart enough to know that he probably doesn't have a team that can win a national championship. So hanging a Big East tournament banner, especially with UConn leaving the Big East, this is a meaningful tournament for him. So I want to say hey to Rodney Ferguson, who was also in Docs Daily when I was just rapping with Craig, and now is over here. Says, nice call on the Western Kentucky and Murray State yesterday. Thank you very much. In my 5-unit play on Western Kentucky, feel like that should have been a little bit bigger of a play. I kind of like Western Kentucky. They haven't been, they're better than their record. Murray State, really interesting game today, Raphael, in the Missouri Valley. If you want to watch a good one, they're playing Bradley. I think Bradley is the best team in the Missouri Valley, not Drake. I think that Bradley is my pick to win it. However, Murray State, very dangerous opponent in this game. 5 senior starters who know that their college career is done if they lose. Those guys are absolutely going to max out. Line was 4.5. I had to take Bradley because I'm like, if I think that they're going to win this conference tournament, I got to take them to cover the small line. But got to tell you, wouldn't be stunned if Murray State won this game outright, frankly. So just looking at that specific tournament, do you have any thoughts on Arch Madness in the Missouri
Yeah, I
Valley?
like Bradley. I think they're the better team. I didn't like the number. I mean, I made it 3.5. It's already up to 5 at some shops right now, so there's no value for me. This is one of those ones. Okay, maybe look at live betting. Maybe Murray State comes out pretty high, and you can get a better number. So this is one of those games that I put an L next to my sheet and check out live betting.
Okay, another game tomorrow at noon, going back to Saturday, that I absolutely love. Love the number, love the situation, love everything about it. We have Vanderbilt going to Georgia. Really interesting game right here. Vandy strung together 3 straight upset wins. They have gotten themselves in that conversation, talking about the bubble, talking about another SEC team that might be able to sneak in. And then Georgia. Georgia played as good a basketball over the last 10 days as any team in the country. And I mean any team in the country. Like, they were absolutely demolishing Florida at home. They were up like 23 or 26 in the first half of that game. Then they went on the road last Saturday to play Texas. That was never a game. That was a first-round knockout. And then in a perfectly fine letdown situation, they go to South Carolina. South Carolina almost beat Florida at home, almost beat Auburn at home. South Carolina is really tough at home. Georgia had no problem with them at home. So Georgia is now back home, 4.5-point favorite. I expect this number to be 6 by tip-off. Building that nice home court advantage the Bulldogs are in Segment Coliseum. Raphael, what do you think about Vanderbilt, Georgia in this matchup? Vanderbilt's been a good underdog. Could this be another spot for them where you're looking to take the points and maybe they steal an outright win, or are we playing the Georgia momentum?
I mean, if I get 8 or higher, then I'll look at the Commodores, but I don't think we're going to go that high. Georgia's going to, no matter what their outcome is, they're going to look at that horrible loss at home to Mississippi State. They lose by 1 point. That would have gave them a little bit more momentum. It's just a bad loss. I mean, I like the way they've been playing. You're right. They're red hot right now, but every time I watch them play, I'm like, how did you lose that game at home to Mississippi State by 1 game? You would be in a better driver's seat right now than happen to go on the road and beat South Carolina, happen to win by double digits by Texas on the road. I think you're just being in better shape. But I just think the betting public will probably keep this close around 6.5, 7.
Something that people might not realize about this Georgia team, and it fits with what we've been talking about, they actually beat St. John's this year. So they've beaten some good teams. They beat St. John's, they beat Kentucky, they beat Florida. You know, these are teams, Florida and St. John's, we're talking about as number 1, number 2 seeds. They have multiple wins against those types of teams. So I really like the way that Georgia is playing right now. This pick will be on my card in one form or another. Unfortunately, again, it opened at 4.5. I'm not going to get to release at that. That'd be a big play for me if it was 4.5. I think it'll be 6, 6.5. Don't be scared about the line movement in that game. I think this is setting up well for Georgia. Okay, let me pull the schedule back up here. Getting into that early afternoon game. What do you think about that Auburn-Alabama game? Rivalry game. What's that?
Staying away.
Staying away. What do you think about the number, though? Okay, do you think, like, it came out at 8.5? I think it's going to go up. I think the public is going to want the points, thinking, oh, rivalry game, Alabama, they're really good, blah, 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 blah. I think the public might jump on Alabama here, thinking it's too many points. I think that number is going to go up, get to 9.5. Thoughts? We got 2 top 10 teams here, 2 top 6 teams here. At what point is it too many points?
I'm not sold on Alabama. I mean, yes, they have a good team. They got some big wins, but they play 0 defense whatsoever. Correct. 0. If I'm going to look at something, I'll look at the total at 177.5 because they let Florida put up a big number in their backyard. Stuff. So I'm just not sold on this Alabama. So if it's either Auburn for me, just because. But how healthy is Bruin? You could tell his back was hurting the last game. So if I'm Auburn, knowing that I'm having the secure number 1 seed, even if I probably lose this game or maybe lose early in the conference game, you're still going to get a number 1 seed. I'm very cautious with my star. So that's why I'm kind of staying away. I don't know if they're up big and they pull their starters just to rest to get ready for conference tournament, whatever, then maybe the back door is wide open for a backdoor cover. So it's either total for me because Bama plays no defense whatsoever. I just can't believe how bad for their defense. I mean, don't get Missouri put up 110 points on them.
Yeah, Denver Jones is another guy to watch for. He did not play against Texas A&M. I just feel like we have Auburn in a situation here where they're going to be a little pissed off coming off that loss to A&M. Yeah, they're a little bit banged up, but everybody's going to be this much healthier when Alabama comes to town because of the rivalry nature of what we're dealing with. So, and Auburn, I've said this before, that once the boulder starts rolling downhill with Auburn, you're not going to stop them. They can just turn people's lights out with some of those big runs. They start making shots from the outside. That's a really tough place to play. Again, if you like Alabama, if you think there's some value, I'm going to tip my hat to you, but I'm just saying, don't take the points there, people that are watching, just because, it's two top 10 teams and I'm getting all these points. Follow that line movement. If there's a reverse line movement in that game, if the public is going on Alabama and that number keeps climbing up, then it's either got to be Auburn or it's got to be stay away. Now, staying in the theme of rivalry games, Duke, North Carolina. Now, interesting. This number is at 11.5. Thought it was a little high. Thought it'd be closer to a flat 10.5. Would not be surprised to see this one drop down. And the reason that that's a little surprising, Raphael, is that the number was only 13.5 in Cameron Indoor. Now, Duke did win that game easily, had no problem covering. They ended up winning by 17 in their first matchup. But this seems like a lot of points. North Carolina's been quietly playing some very good basketball. They've won 6 straight. They've covered 5 straight. They want revenge for getting embarrassed in that first matchup. Break this one down for me.
Yeah, it's totally different North Carolina game than what we saw when they played Duke. Was it last month? I mean, you said they've won 6 straight. I'm more interested in how many are we going to see defense in this game, because this is at North Carolina where they usually like to speed the game up for a lot of points. The last 3 meetings, all 3 of them have gone over the total. The last 3 meetings, the winner has averaged 88 points a game. So we can see a very high scoring game in this one. I agree. I think it's way too many points. UNC playing much better now. They were completely out of the tournament like last month, and now they're creeping in. So if they can sneak a W out here, wow, that would be a huge momentum for them for the tournament. I'm either total for me or maybe take the plus points. I mean, North Carolina's averaging 91 points a game in that 6-game winning streak.
So if you like the total, you're looking at the over in that game, huh?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because I think North Carolina wants to put up some big points. And Duke has been, I've been playing Duke team total over for the past 5 games. I've been cashing pretty easily with them because they're averaging, I think, 83 points a game for the season and 91 points a game in their last 10 games.
Yeah, in North Carolina over the 6-game winning streak, they've scored 88 or more.
Yep.
In 5 of the 6 games. They've scored 91 or more in 4 out of their last 5 games. I'm kind of with you. I could kind of see a track meet. And I got to tell you, I'm not in a hurry to throw money down against Duke right now just because of how good. I mean, they are pulverizing people. These games aren't close. They're 22-point favorites, and they're winning by 40. Like, they're just absolutely decimating people. However, North Carolina wasn't playing well early in the season. But check this out. They lost to Kansas by 3. They lost to Auburn by 13 on a neutral site. That Kansas game was a true road game. They lost to Michigan State in overtime by 3. Lost to Alabama by 15. Okay, like I said, they weren't playing well. Lost to Florida by 6. Auburn, Michigan State, Alabama, Florida. We're talking about the best teams in the country. They've seen everything that Duke is bringing to this game. They have seen. North Carolina has seen what the best teams in the country look like and play like. I will be surprised if they get run out of their own gym by Duke. I think that all the value here has to be on the underdog. Do you see this number coming down, or do you think that the public is just, look, man, just bet on Duke, because they just keep cashing tickets?
That's a tough one because the public has been betting Duke. Like you said, they've been covering 20 plus numbers all day. So I think the betting public is going to say, hey, you know what? I've been cashing with Duke this whole time, laying at big numbers. Maybe I'll continue riding them. That's a toughie. I don't know what the public is going to do, what the line movement is going to do. But yeah, 11.5, 12 in some shops offshore. I mean, it's North Carolina plus the points for me. I mean, I want nothing to do with, because I think this game really, yeah, it does mean stuff for Duke. They're still a number 1 seed. They're going to be a number 1 seed even if they lose this game. They've already beat North Carolina in their backyard, but I think North Carolina has the bigger chip on their shoulders to win this game.
All right, I just mentioned them briefly, but I want to talk about them a little bit. This Arizona-Kansas game. What is going on with Kansas? It is obvious that they are not the team everyone expected them to be when they were preseason number one. A lot of hype with these transfers. I bet them last Saturday and took another loss with them. Do you know it has been over 20 years since they have lost more than 2 home games in
I did not know that.
And they've lost 3 this year. They've lost 3 home games this year for the first time in over 20 years. Now they're very small favorites, 1.5, just kind of a token favorite against a really tough, mentally tough, physical Arizona team. I mean, do we buy low with Kansas and say, look, they can't lose 4 home games, right? Like they're not that bad of a team. If Kansas was having injuries and all this stuff was going on and they were 16-11 and it was just a down year, right? Like just a throwaway season, then it's like, okay, I can see them losing 3 or 4 home games. They're not. They're going to the tournament. They're still a top 25 team. They're still a pretty good team. So do we buy low with Kansas and their dominating home court advantage here? Or is this one that Arizona can steal on the road, a place they're not really familiar with playing?
Well, the 2 teams that need to stare themselves in the mirror, because don't forget Arizona lost at home to BYU. I mean, we can see a kind of reverse factor on this one, Arizona stealing a game at the field house. That's like Kansas basketball reminds me of Florida State football. That's all it is. That's you got transfer portal players and NIL players, and they just don't gel in your program. That's what Kansas reminds me of right now. They're the Florida State of college football right now. So I don't trust Kansas. So if I'm going to take anything on this one, I'll take the road team. I'll take Arizona. I mean, they play a tough schedule as well. It's not like they've been playing cream puffs like the Anteaters or CS Northridge. They've been playing some tough teams. So it's either because I just don't trust Kansas right now.
Okay, going out west, Midwest, late game on Saturday, Houston going to Baylor. I have this number around 5.5. Where are you expecting this number to open up, and what are you expecting it to do?
I think Houston be like 6-point favorite. I think the public knows Houston. I think the public knows they're a number 1 seed. Baylor's had some really bad losses this year, so I think it's either Houston for me or nothing. I'm more interested in the total. How low can this one be? Because I think Houston's going to put that clamp on Baylor's offense at home. This is something reminds me of a game that we saw the other day. It was like a 59-49 type of game. I can't remember. I think it was a Kansas State game when the final was 54.
Cincinnati, Kansas State.
Yeah,
I feel like
Kansas
it was
State.
something like that.
I could see this type of game. I just think Houston just puts a clamp on Baylor's defense. That's why. I mean, I would need 8 points or more if I'm going to take a shot at Baylor, because I think Houston's defense is just going to be stifling in this one.
Okay, so the initial instinct, I feel like, for this one is to lay the points with Houston, right? Because Houston, I mean, they just demolish people. They do not play a lot of close games. When they beat teams, they usually pulverize them. However, on the road, playing against a Baylor team that I feel like the metrics the analytics like Baylor a little more than I like Baylor, have played a really challenging schedule. But the thing that jumps out about Baylor is they play a lot of close games. They've already played 4 overtime games. So this is another team. They beat St. John's this year. They're one of only 4 teams that have beaten St. John's this year. They beat them in double overtime back earlier in the season, kind of proving that Baylor can win against those, high level teams. They haven't really proven that in conference play. They don't really get blown out either. They played 3 conference overtime games. What do you think? Do you think Baylor can hang around in this one? And if the public does jump on Houston and this number gets in that kind of 6.5 range, do you think there's value with the home underdog? Or do you think Houston, it's either I'm betting on Houston or I'm running very, very far away from them?
Yeah, I'm betting on Houston. I'm running for it because all I remember is how poorly Baylor's offense looked against Arizona. I think they only put up, 66 around there, and they lose at home to Arizona. And Arizona's defense is not even close to what type of defense Houston plays.
They lost by 7. They put up 67 points, and
Okay,
they lost by 7 in that game to Arizona. Arizona was in a letdown spot too because they had played Houston just two nights prior.
That's what I'm thinking. If they couldn't come up and play a mentally probably drained Arizona team, and Arizona comes back and wins them on your home court, I just think Houston for me or nothing.
All right, last game of the day is one that you actually singled out, and I love that you did because there's 3 big rivalry games going on tomorrow. We got Alabama, Auburn, we got Duke, North Carolina, then another big rivalry game. We got the Holy War. Okay, if you have a nickname for your rivalry game, then it's a big rivalry. We got Utah going to BYU, another rivalry game. And this is what I talked about on Doc's Daily with Craig Trapp, is that the first thing that jumped out at me about the numbers tomorrow is that we have these big rivalry games. They all have huge numbers like that, spread around 9 in that Alabama, Auburn. That's a huge number for 2 top 5 teams. North Carolina getting double digits at home, huge number. Another big number here, Raphael. I had this one as Utah plus 11.5. Now, BYU has been playing their best basketball of the season. They cashed for me last Saturday for my 8-unit game of the year. They're playing great basketball, and they are just eviscerating people right now. Utah got some issues, right? They fired their coach not too long ago. They're just kind of hanging around out there. But this is a big game for them, right? Like, they could end BYU's winning streak. This is kind of – Utah's not going anywhere. I guess this is what I'm saying. So this is kind of their national championship game, don't you think?
Oh, I agree. And Randy, thanks for the love on this one. Me and Ferringo, we just pretty much talk shop. Yeah, we'll say we'll have a free play at the end of it, but me and Ferringo have been doing this for a very long time together. So I love doing the show with him. So thanks for the love, Randy. But yeah, if you're going to have a rivalry, the name itself should give you pumped up. The Holy War should just give you pumped up on this one. And I'm not a fan of Utah. How many games they've won in a run?
Right.
And I know I'm not giving Roman Reigns his number one for all you WWE fans out there. They've won 1 road game. I thought this number was going to be close to 16. I think there's value at 13.5. And I'll repeat myself. I think there's value at 13.5. Last time they played a home game, BYU, they beat West Virginia by 21 points. And I think West Virginia is a much better team than Utah is. So I just see a beatdown. You get congratulations on your play last Saturday on BYU. I had a big play on BYU as a prop play as their team total over and it skill high. I don't know what my play was. It was a premium play. I can't keep track of all my stuff. So it was a nice hit for me. So congratulations on your win on that one. But I just love this BYU offense. If they're hitting the threes, they're the Boston Celtics of college basketball. If they're hitting their threes, it's lights out no matter who they are playing. So 13.5. I would take a shot at this, even if this moves up to 14 or 15, because this BYU team is going to be a lot of bracket busters when dancing time.
Yeah, again, this is a team I was really high on back in November, and they didn't play well earlier in the season. Like I kind of got off BYU for a little while because the way that they're playing now is kind of how I expected them to play earlier in the season. So it's nice that they're really experienced veteran guards. Like you said, they got a lot of different guys that can make shots. It's not 2 or 3 guys that you got to focus on. They got 5 guys that can hit multiple 3-pointers in a half or in a game. Yeah, I'm kind of with you here that BYU is another one of those teams. I talked about this with Auburn, that when they get the ball rolling downhill offensively, it happens quick. They can turn out your lights quick. They can put up a 13-2 run on you like that in the matter of minutes, not an 8 or 9 minute stretch where they just grind you down. No, that can happen in about 120 seconds. And it's not surprising that they have NBA tendencies. Their new head coach, Kevin Young, he was an NBA guy for many years. So you see some of that influence in their style of play. And yeah, my first instinct was this is a bigger game for Utah because they have less to look forward to and less to play for, right? Like BYU, they're going to the Big 12 tournament with designs on, hey, maybe we could be a sleeper team and we could win this thing and really boost our tournament stock. And they know they're going to the NCAA tournament. Utah's not going anywhere. They don't know who their coach is going to be, who's going to stick around. They haven't played a very difficult schedule this year. I like some of the things they do. They're one of the tallest teams in college basketball, and all their big men step out and shoot. So they have some unique pieces, but they just haven't haven't put it together. So while I do feel like this is a national, Utah is going to go full bore in this game, I don't know if it's enough right now. You think back to what BYU did to Kansas a few Mondays ago when they beat them by 40 or whatever it was. That's
91-57. It was I remember that it was 91-57.
Yep. And I will remember that game because I'm pissed that I didn't have a bigger play on it. But yeah, that's what we're kind of looking at with BYU, is that they're more than capable of shutting off Utah's lights in that one. So, all right, Raphael, that's it. We're going to wrap this up. You got a free play for the peoples?
We're going to the Holy War. That's why I wrote this when I sent you the last plays I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about this because this was my free play. Take BYU all the way up to 15 if it goes that high. Their last 3 home games, I'm going to repeat this. They beat West Virginia 77-56. They beat Kansas 91-57, and they beat K-State 80-65. I can't do all that math in my head, but that covers a 13.5 on all 3 of those home games. Utah is 3-2-1. I usually say Cancun, but for Utah, it's probably 3-2-1. Brian Head, maybe they're going skiing because I don't think those kids go to spring breaks and party like normal skiers. I just don't like this Utah team. BYU. I think they know they're rolling. You figure that they've beaten some big teams, and I think each win is going to give them a better seeding. I think this is a team I'm looking forward to playing and watching in the dance, but I like BYU. Take this all the way up to 15.
All right, my free play is a game that I talked about earlier. It's going to be a premium play for me tomorrow. I like that I'm giving this out as a free play today because you guys will be able to take advantage of the early line, which will not be where this line is going to stay. But take Georgia. Take Georgia. I think Georgia is gonna hammer Vanderbilt. I like Vandy. Nice story. Good scrappy team. You got some really good guards that make some tough shots, but they are a lot better at home than they are on the road. They've, most of the teams that they've been able to trip up in those good wins that Vanderbilt has been able to collect this year, they've come in Nashville. They're going to Athens. Georgia's playing as well as anybody right now, and I'm betting this because of the way Georgia has looked. It's not just that they're beating people. It's not just that they're covering spreads. It's not just their numbers. If you're watching this team, they're playing really good basketball right now. I'm expecting that to continue. Hopefully that's a nice free play winner to get you going. That's a noon tip-off tomorrow. So, all right, that's it for What Are the Odds? He is Raphael Esparza. I am Robert Ferringo. Be sure to check back next Friday for another it's going to be an interesting show of What Are the Odds, because we're going to be in conference tournament mode. So we're not even going to know what Saturday's schedule is. So we'll mix in some NHL, NBA. We got you covered when it comes to the numbers. See you then. In the meantime, carpe diem and good luck.